I think we've got a good, strong economy. We've got very strong domestic demand. Consumers are holding up. Some low-income consumers are perhaps exhausting their buffers of saving that they built up during the pandemic. We're seeing a little bit more distress at the household level there. But generally, households are in very good financial shape.
You're still confident we can get to 2% this year? We've seen a little bit of a flare-up so far this year.
Well, I think it will continue to come down over time. That's my expectation. And, I'm hopeful that we can certainly get into the twos. I think we can feel great about our economy.
I was going to ask you what you made of this last jobs report.
Well, it just shows that U.S. is firing on all cylinders.
Happy Bitcoin Tuesday, freaks. It's your host, Odell, here for another Citadel Dispatch, the interactive live show focused on Bitcoin and freedom tech. That intro clip was U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen letting us know that inflation is under control, everything is fine, and the U.S. has never been stronger. I have a great group of guests here today to talk Mutiny Wallet. We have the entire founding team of Mutiny, all return guests, all ride or die freaks. For the podcast listeners at home, why don't we go through the horn? Tony, welcome back.
What's up, guys? Good to be here, as always.
We got Paul here as well. How's it going, Paul?
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Hello to you as well. And we have Ben the Carmen. How's it going, Ben?
Yo, good to be back.
And as always, we have the Ride or Die Freaks in the live Nostr chat. You do not have to have Nostr to use it. It allows you to create an account on the fly in the browser. You can join that chat by going to citadeldispatch.com/stream. So guys, Mutiny Wallet, you guys just had a big update. I think the freaks, this might be our third or fourth conversation on Mutiny Wallet through the years on Dispatch. So the freaks are probably pretty familiar with Mutiny, but it's come a long way. Where do we get started? Why should someone care about Mutiny? Why should someone consider using it?
Yeah, it's kind of long. It's only been like a year so far. It's kind of awesome to see, but yeah, we started Mutiny Wallet to kind of start building a Lightning wallet in what we think is like the right way, and have that privacy focus built in. We built it for the web first, so even if we're deplatformed by Google or Apple, there's always that web fallback. You can self-host it. Connect to different Lightning nodes. Like we wanted to make it as like self-sovereign capable as possible, but still like as easy as possible for someone to get started with. And building it on the web was a huge part of it where, if you don't have to download an app even to get started, you just like go to mutinywallet.com and then you have a Lightning wallet ready to go. So those were like kind of the big motivations behind it. Kind of like our selling point is like trying to build in that accessibility and build in, what we think is like the right way to build a wallet basically. So yeah, we've had quite a few updates over the last few months. I think the big one is like our social features and the social integration to kind of make it like a Venmo, but like built on top of Nostr and on top of Bitcoin and Lightning. But then like our big one yesterday was Lightning addresses. So now we're rolling it out slowly. So we're starting with Mutiny Plus users first for people that subscribe. But yeah, we're starting to roll out Lightning addresses based on Fedimint. So yeah, I'm happy to dive into like any specific points, but like our social stuff, our like Lightning address stuff, Federation stuff, like these have been huge updates over the last really few weeks, really.
Yes, I mean let's pull it back. Originally, when Mutiny first launched, it was it was browser only. This idea that you could just open a fresh wallet, a full Lightning node in your phone browser. It didn't matter if you had an old Android phone that didn't have the App Store, or if Apple, decided that they didn't want any Bitcoin wallets on the App Store. You could just load it up directly in the browser. You could load it up on a desktop computer. Pretty much anything that had a browser, you could just load it up, which is really fucking awesome. And you still can do that. Since then, you guys have actually launched native apps. You want to talk really quick about why native apps? Why did, if you can just do it in the browser, why do we have App Store apps available in both Android and iPhone?
And like native apps are kind of just like better. Like if you can go through the compliance of Apple and Google, like they're more secure, more performant. They get all these like nice like features. Like with Apple, you can't use like NFC without an app and stuff like that. So it's kind of like we always want to support the web. Like that's like where we were started with. But like if you can use the app, you should, just because it's got all these benefits that the phone OSs give you. But the way we built it, it's like it can easily go between like native app and web, so it shouldn't be a huge problem. If like Apple rug pulled us tomorrow, just type in your 12 words into the web, and you're back in action.
Badass. So you guys just added Fedimint support. Why'd you do that?
Self-custodial Lightning, we do as much as possible to smooth over as many restrictions with like channels and a lot of friction there. I think Phoenix like absolutely does it the best as far as like Lightning channel and like trying to extract liquidity, or sorry, the aspects of liquidity balancing and things like that into the picture. But it's still too much friction. Of like, if you want to use Mutiny Wallet today as like a brand new user, you have to open a channel, and to open a channel requires like on-chain fees to start receiving, and then on-chain fees to like for sending as well. So if someone wanted to get started with Mutiny today, we're talking when the chain fees are really high, we're talking like a $50 investment to try out a new application. And that's not usually like how it works. That's not how you reach people. I think with Fedimint, the whole idea around it is that we can sort of like abstract a lot of the same functionality, like sending and receiving over Lightning. That's like what users are trying to do, right? Like they're not trying to manage channels. They're not trying to worry about all those things. They just want to send and receive, and to just try out the wallet for like a few thousand sats. Like we have some people that just load up with 1,000 sats now just to try it out, and they're like, holy shit, like this is awesome. I love being able to zap someone like a few sats all the time. It just like smooths it over, and so it's all about like removing the friction, but still having self-custodial channels in there. So if you have a bunch of sats on the Federation, you can just sweep it into a Lightning channel. You can do a swap, and it opens the Lightning channel to you to the same phone. You'll pay the on-chain fees for it, and the channel fees. But once you do that, you have the same wallet, the same user experience. It's just like now you have more sats that are on self-custodial versus like what's on the Federation. Because with a Federation, like, yes, there's still like more members, but you still kind of have to like, trust those members to run the Fedimint network properly and to like not rug pull and things like that. So you do want to, like, if you start getting bigger sats, like put it in the self-custodial, but just the aspect that people can just try out for a little bit is huge for removing friction, getting more users, getting feedback, and things of that nature. So that, like, I've been working on it for like 6 months now. Thought it would be a lot quicker than that integration, but it's been awesome working with the Fedimint team and seeing how far that's progressed over the last 6 months. So like huge shout out to all of them for working on it and doing what they do.
Yeah, it really solves so many problems for us. Like like Tony said, that minimum $50 is not in fees. It's the minimum channel size that we have set is 100,000 sats, and that's not just us being mean. Like it's just silly to make a Lightning channel smaller than 100,000 sats. And once upon a time that was $20. Right now that's like almost $70. And if you think of it, we're comparing ourselves to like, a Cash App and Venmo, those sort of social payment apps. And how did they get users? They paid people $5 to use their app. So we're saying, hey, come use our app. Start with $70, and then you can see what it's like. So Fedimint gives us that like cold start with 100 sats, especially if you're most people's like day-to-day usage of Lightning right now seems to be on Nostr. And so if you want to be sending receiving small amounts, and that's fun to you, investing $70 to do that, it might just be a non-starter. But if you can just join the Fedimint and get started, that's great. And the other huge motivation for us that made it so obvious to move in the Fedimint direction is this offline receive Lightning address. Async payments are not a thing yet in Lightning, and even once they are, it's not like a slam dunk, fix everything kind of solution. A traditional Lightning payment, both nodes need to be online for it to go through. And so when you have a mobile wallet, the whole point of it is that the node runs on the device, and therefore it can't just be on all the time. So to receive offline, having this, even if you're just using the Fedimint as a proxy, so funds flow into there now to your Lightning address, and then when you come online, you can sweep them, to your self custodial if you want to. Is just a huge win for UX.
I love the idea of this mix of self custody Lightning plus Fedimint. Um, I think you guys are the first ones to kind of try out this model, regardless of even charming eCash. This idea of a custodial and a self custody mixed together. Um, it's an interesting trade off balance. It's a compelling trade off balance. So, I mean, to unpack this a little bit for the freaks, we had Callie on Dispatch a couple weeks ago talking about Cashew, which is single sig charming eCash. We had Phoenix. We had Pierre, the CEO of Phoenix Wallet, on last week to talk about self custody Lightning on mobile and how they do it. This is kind of like a combination of the two, with the added benefit that the idea of Fedimints is that instead of you having a single sig custodian, a single sig charming eCash mint, you have a multi sig. So it requires multiple people in the quorum to come together to steal the money or to make a mistake that loses the money. So I mean, I guess like one of the big things with choosing a Fedimint, you don't have to trust the mint operators with your privacy because you use charming eCash, so you're not giving up any privacy there. And I know that was like a major goal, especially early days of Mutiny Wallet. I mean, I remember still Dispatch 21 with Tony. We spent like 2.5 hours talking about all the different privacy trade offs of trying to use Lightning privately. And the dream is to have a wallet that kind of just automates all of that for people, or automates as much of the best practices as possible. But you do have to trust them in terms of actually maintaining um, maintaining the mint and not being malicious. And so there's this whole, it's like, who do you choose as your Fedimint? And you guys have implemented this kind of web of trust system. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, so like we've been kind of going all in on these like Nostr features with like the social feed and all that stuff, but we're like, well, we already have this Nostr stuff in, like, why don't we just use Nostr as discoverability layer for Fedimint? So I made a nip for it, and basically it's just like there's two sides of it. One side, like federations or Fedimints announce themselves on Nostr and say like, hi, I'm a mint. Here's my name. Here's like the invite codes to join me. These are like the different modules we support, all that stuff. And then on the other side, the users can join that federation from that announcement, and then they can also like create a recommendation event saying like, hey, this mint is great. I recommend it. And then so in Mutiny, when you go to add a federation, you just have a list of all these announcements of people that have made and saying like, oh, cool, Odell recommended this Fedimint, and I can see that like not only he recommended it, but all my other people that I follow recommended it as well. So we can just kind of like sort those by like, who's recommending the most federations and stuff. And it makes it like a lot nicer because we had Fedimint support in the app for about like, I don't know, maybe like 4 months now. But for the longest time, everyone's just like, how do I get a Fedimint invite code? I want to join a federation. But like, no one knew how to find these invite codes. Like sometimes people would tweet them out on Twitter and stuff. That was about it. So now it's like, okay, it's just native in the app. You never need to, go to an alternate platform to find like an invite code. It's just all in the app. And you can, whoever you trust, you can see like who they're also trusting.
It's basically like distributed censorship resistant trust pilot.
I do want to make it clear, like this, we're definitely early on this, like Web of Trust. A lot of people have been talking about Web of Trust stuff, and this was a big, we were just in Madeira for a couple months, and with a lot of Nostr devs and Bitcoin devs, and Web of Trust was a big theme. And so like right now in the wallet, we list federations, we have some heuristics for not just showing every rando whoever clicked recommend. I mean, on Nostr it's obviously very cheap to set up a new identity, so but
I
there
could
are,
have like 1,000 npubs just immediately.
yeah, and so that
Positive.
ultimately should result in basically no signal. But what is actually interesting? Okay, who do I follow these people? Do I have a bunch of mutual follows with these people? Have they? I don't know. Showing more metadata about the federation itself. Like, are any of the members of the federation public? So I can see, do I trust them? Do I follow them? Those sorts of things. How long has this been around? There's lots of. I think we can get a lot more richer. Not trying to make it intimidating, but for people who are ready to vet more deeply what federation they're going to trust, I hope that we can provide uh, something's a little bit more rich there. But right now, this is just kind of the first pass on. Hey, you can see some faces, and if you recognize them, it's a better way to choose a mint.
Yeah, I think with Web of Trust, the key idea is like going into the specifics of what it is you are trusting people. So it's like, just because I follow, a few hundred people, I don't trust them for like everything that we try to apply Web of Trust properties to. The NIP, I forget the NIP it is, but like this whole Web of Trust Federation and Mint discovery thing, the reason why I like it so much is because it's like single purpose, this one specific thing. It's like I can recommend a mint. I can have friends that recommend a mint, and if people are following me, they can kind of judge for themselves. I trust this person for recommending mints, or whether or not you do that, that's kind of up to you. Like, we can make it transparent. There's other things I might trust certain people for, but then there's also people I might not want to take recommendations for mints. So just the idea, like, there's bitcoinmints.com made by Bob and the Prism team, and like we kind of worked alongside them on the spec for this. And so like they were building like a dedicated website for all eCash mints. So there's Cashew and Fedimint, and they support them both. And you can list mints on there. You can recommend mints. And then meanwhile, alongside it, we were building this into Mutiny Wallet specifically for Fedimint. We don't have Cashew support in our wallet. We're kind of just going the Fedimint direction instead. But we can still pull in the same federation events that happen on Bitcoin mints and vice versa. So, from that perspective alone, I think it's huge. Like, this is where like Nostr wins, right? Like, Ben has a famous note on Nostr that's just like, Nostr doesn't have a discovery problem. It is the discovery solution. And I think there's so much truth to that.
Yeah, like I think like there is the problem of like there can be a million fake Odells, but like once you find the real Odell, like discoverability like can work so well, because now I can find everything that the real Odell likes and he interacts with like super easily. It's just like a super simple query to anything. And so yeah, like once you have that, like in Mutiny, we're kind of assuming you have a good follow list and you can find the people you trust. But once you have that, like it's so easy to discover people, to like pay them. It's so easy to discover like Zaps, so easy to discover Fedimints, as long as you can like bootstrap that initial list of friends.
I think there's something worth discussion. So Duck just posted a comment I'd like to answer. Does Web of Trust cause centralization? And there's some truth to that. like we debated, some of this mint discovery stuff ourselves, or like, running a mint and being like one of the only mints there. Like, is it too early for this kind of solution? Like, I mean, one of the reasons I like the fact that we didn't have something like this in our wallet is just because it's like, it was too early for like recommending mints to people. You might be able to say it still is, but let the market figure it out now. At this point, the cat's out of the bag. But it just kind of like, I wanted to wait a little bit so we can kind of let mints kind of pop up. And it was almost perfect timing when the free Madeira mint launched. That was like the same week that Bitcoin mints launched. And we were like 1 or 2 weeks away from launching our mint discovery. So it's like there's enough trends going in the right direction of it. But yeah, I mean, you could say there's some centralization caused by everyone just joining the one mint. I still think there's a lot of opportunity for many mints to spin up. But on the reverse side of that, kind of like what Paul said, like, and me a little bit too, where, let's say there is a community of people where, they are on Nostr. Let's say a community in Madeira, right? Like, this is a perfect example. Let's say Madeira wasn't the first to launch. Let's say they launched, after there's already like 100 mints. Well, the people in Madeira, they might be following each other on Nostr, and they might like spin up a mint, and they might be mostly concentrated in Madeira. And all of a sudden what you have is like Madeira people recommending the Madeira mint and not the other ones. So you just naturally, we can bubble up in the UI the Madeira mint for the people that are following a bunch of Madeira people. So like, in a way, there is some centralization caused, but in the other way, like, you could say it's like, how else would you cause decentralization? Like this is kind of, if you naturally start having your own communities in a decentralized way, you kind of naturally can kind of create solutions that kind of fit for them, and not just like, we don't just recommend like the biggest mint to you in the UI. Like, we recommend the one that has the most amount of your followers, the people you're following, recommending that mint. So we can kind of like do some smart UI stuff to kind of incentivize people to use the one that might be the best suited for them, because the people around them have said it was best suited for them. So I think it's an interesting aspect, like centralization versus decentralization. Like, I think having something like this, otherwise you just everyone, how else do you discover mints? You just, eventually a big one will pop up, and that's the only one people will know, and there will be no discovery layer for any other mints to pop up, and then everyone just uses the big one. And the prime example of this is like FTX, right? Like, a big exchange pops up, they're doing marketing, they're doing all this stuff, and everyone just uses that single one. But we can sort of like distribute that a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
you
think
have-
another example is like Liquid. It's
Yeah.
like, in theory, anyone can spin up a Liquid network, but there's only one, just because there's been that one existing for years, and there's no real like easy way to find other Liquid networks. There's no like real incentive to set up another one, versus like with Fedimint, they kind of like totally fix that, of like, they're meant to be a lot smaller and more agile, and all this stuff, and
Well,
creating
my
these like,
understanding is the HSMs aren't false, and so you can't actually have competing. Like, it's not permissionless to create a competing liquid network.
I think you could create one that's just like, you're not using their fancy HSM, so it's not as secure. Like, you could have your laptop sign blocks, but
But anyway, the point remains. I
yeah,
mean, you have to think about like, what is the alternative, right? And
yeah,
like, and up until this point, the alternative has been, you download Wallet of Satoshi, so you use their custodian, and if Wallet of Satoshi is incredibly successful, then everyone uses the same custodian. Well, this seems like a clear net benefit, that Mutiny is not like loading you up and choosing who your mint is. The user gets to choose.
Yeah, imagine if you had something like the Wallet Satoshi UI, but now it allows you to pick your, kind of like risk vector and everything. Like, you get to decide what to do. Right now, like, kudos to Wallet Satoshi, like, they made something that seems intuitive to people, and like, they like and enjoy the app, things like that. But they're sort of decentralized provider. So it's like, you use their wallet, then you have to use their infrastructure. Meanwhile, with something like us, it's like, you use our wallet, but you can pick anyone's federated infrastructure to use that's backing it. So you can kind of decide for yourself what to do. And that makes it more adaptable for us. Like, we don't have to run the Fedimint infrastructure, like, and then at the same time, if you like the Mutiny wallet experience, you're not tied to just like us and our backend. So there's a lot of benefits by, I mean, that's like the benefits of Nostr, right? Like plugging into the open network. Like Fedimint is also another open network. It's just an open network for eCash tokens.
Yeah, like it really makes like Wall Satoshi like become like a protocol versus like an app where I can have that same kind of experience, but now instead of if they get a letter from the government to shut down the America, the whole app's gone in America. Versus now it's like, oh, just that federation is gone in America. I could just hop over to another one, use the same app and everything because it's a protocol, not just a proprietary thing.
You could even make it one button.
Exactly.
It's like, okay, time to migrate. Click the migrate button.
Yeah, speaking of, someone had a question. How do users of a mint get notified if a mint is shutting down?
You guys gonna offer this? Only if you're a subscriber.
Yeah, Mutiny Plus users get all
Run
the info.
notification as a paid subscriber service.
Yeah, like I know all the mints, so I'll just like hand tell people. No, it's an interesting question. I don't know. Yeah, you could have like if the mints there is a mod. So like the cool thing about Fedimint is like it's more than just eCash, Bitcoin, and Lightning. They're building this sort of OS layer. I think like how Fedi and Obi would put it, like it can do so much more than that. Like on a federated level, I think he at one point said it was like a federated OS. You could have things like password managers in there. You could have things like social recovery backups in there, like anything that like involves like key signing or things like that at all could go in there. Someone made a module that was like Nostr specific, where like because it uses like the same cryptography that Nostr uses, you can have something where like each of the guardians have one key of a Nostr master key, and if they all agree to publish something, it gets published. Or not all. If a majority agree to publish something, it gets published. So you could have something where it just says like just announcements or updates in general would be useful to bubble up and like to pass on to the user. So I think historically, Fedimint has started integrating a chat protocol, like a different chat protocol into their wallet. I forget the name of it.
They're just using Matrix now.
They're using Matrix now. Okay,
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, so they're experimenting with different chat protocols. I think something Nostr makes the most sense because that's an easy way to split up the keys to different guardians. It naturally supports it. You don't have to have the guardians run the relay. They can just take advantage of every other relay that runs and blast the message to all of them. So I think something Nostr, like I would love to see more mint like Nostr nips come in the time to come. But this is, like Paul said, this is all super early bleeding edge stuff. Like like the mint spec to just announce the mint, was just created a few weeks ago and was just like implemented by 2 people, right? So this is all still early, but like these are kind of the right questions that we need to answer. How do we know a mint's going to shut down? How do we know, how to inform the user? I've been a big proponent of like having expiration dates on mints just to kind of get it out there, like, hey, this mint's not going to be around forever. Here's like an expiration date for the mint. Like the Fedimint protocol has support for announcing the expiration date right at the front, so you can kind of just say like, hey, your sats aren't going to be here forever. We promise to run this mint all collectively until this date, and then from there we're not sure. Like get your sats off before the state hits, because like it's still too early. Like if Guardians spin up today, the problem is, oh well, now I have to support this software forever because you have forever liabilities on a Bitcoin. And I think with the expiration date, it almost treats it like a Visa gift card, where it's like this is good for this functionality up until this date, and then from there, I make no guarantees. And I think that's all you can kind of say at this early stage of Fedimint. It's just people just running it and kind of seeing how they like it.
Well, let's talk about, while we're on that topic, let's talk about the pain points of Fedimint right now.
Oh, there's none. It's great.
I think there's always some, like the fact that it's so new makes it hard. Like there's like, I think like in the unmainnet, like we can discover like 3 federations, and like we've had like some issues where it's like, oh, the gateways aren't working, or like, oh, the fees are high or too low to actually make payments. Like a lot of this stuff, it's like, Fedimint's been on mainnet for like 2 months at most, so it's like they haven't run into all those kind of like, on testnet, there's no fees, there's no like high uptime requirements. It's just like, it just kind of, you spin it up, it works, and then you merge the pull request. Versus like mainnet, you need to like test that it works for like 6 months straight with no downtime, and the fees don't come into account and break things and stuff like that. So that makes it a lot harder. So I imagine they're going to run into like lots of different little things there. But I mean, for the most part, it's been great.
But it's very much bleeding edge still.
One of the issues with Fedimint right now, and I know that they're trying to find a good solution for this, is let's say you have a mint going, and there's like 5 members, and one of them decides that they don't want to be a part of it anymore. It'd be nice to be able to just say, okay, so the other 4 are going to nominate a new person to replace that, and they'll like swap them out somehow. There isn't some graceful like swap out mechanism.
So what happens now? You have to cut them in to launch a new one?
So yeah, right now the way to solve that would be to start a new federation and then move everybody over. It's not a cool experience. I mean, I'm sure we could like build stuff on top of that to try to like kind of smooth over that.
Like even if, I mean, it could be like someone gets hit by a bus, right? It's like,
oh yeah, there's buses everywhere.
Yeah, too many buses.
Yeah, and it's like a really hard problem. Like just doing the negotiation of like seamlessly switching out that member is hard. But then it's like, okay, now like say it's like a 3 or 4 federation, and well, it's like now that 4th member, their key is still on the multisig of the Bitcoin on chain. So it's like we need to like move that Bitcoin from like one address to another. Someone needs to pay those fees, and it's like, okay, if we just pay the fees from the Bitcoin, well, now our federation is it's now like doesn't have all the Bitcoin net for eCash. It's like it's fractional reserve. So now it's like, okay, we need to like figure out a way to someone pay those fees, or figure out a way to actually negotiate that. Like in theory, you can do it with like Frost and Musig and all that stuff to like not have to move the Bitcoin, but like that is a long ways away from now. So like it's all of these like hard problems to figure out that you need fancy cryptographers or something.
So we have this comment from npub15lm jackx saying, by the way, if you set a username, we'll have usernames in the chat.
It's Cortic. It's showing up on Amethyst. It's Cortic.
Oh, okay. I guess it's a big relay versus small relay debate all over again. But anyway, Cortic is saying, fuck all that. Instead of building privacy spending tools on chain without deterministic links, this is wasting time on Web of Trust and again, trusting some entity. I trust no mint or federation. Fuck that word salads to lure more idiots to it. Mints are not part of Bitcoin. When you deposit Bitcoin into a mint, it's not Bitcoin anymore. The Bitcoin provenance is gone. When you convert Bitcoin to liquid, it's not Bitcoin, but a private chain controlled by Blockstream nodes. Tony, I mean, you wrote a fantastic piece about this. You want to just chat real quick on this? Because I mean, I think this is an incredibly important aspect for potential users to keep in mind.
Yeah, no, this is something different. Yeah, this isn't Bitcoin. It's not Bitcoin anymore. 100%. I agree. I think people come in with those attitudes, and I think I think they would know, or like if they would know, like I would agree with almost all of it. It's not Bitcoin. It's a different network. It's not a network where a single person controls it, and I think that's the beauty of Fedimint. You could say it's still custodial, but technically, legally speaking, it's non-custodial because there's not unilateral control of the funds by any single party, and that's honestly like the biggest aspect. That's like the biggest. There's the biggest appealing thing to me. Like yes, there are a lot of people, a lot of Bitcoiners that like don't trust anything in the world, except of course the fact that they can't audit the Bitcoin and the Bitcoin code, and they're trusting other people to. That's besides the fact. But yeah, there's a lot of people that say they don't trust anything else in the world, and then they can use Bitcoin as is and just fine. But the reality of the situation is Paul has talked a lot about trust as a scaling solution. Like you have to trust some things, and there's going to be people that trust different things based on different aspects. Fedimint is the best privacy tool that could possibly exist. eCash is itself. So from a privacy perspective, it's fantastic. And if you were to ask me how I would basically use Fedimint for whatever risk model you have, if that risk model is 0, then don't use it at all. If that risk model is like up to a million sats because you like the benefits that it provides as an alternative to Bitcoin, it can do things that we can't do on Bitcoin on chain today. And so if you want to take advantage of those things, if you want to take advantage of the privacy aspect, use it for as much amount as you're willing to possibly lose on it. But yeah, I mean, I agree. Fedimint is its own network. You don't have a claim on the Bitcoin. You might think you have a claim on the Bitcoin, but you're swapping Bitcoin for eCash on a different network. And you should kind of like come in with that idea.
Would you?
Where we call it eSats in our wallet, just to kind of try to make the distinction that like this isn't Bitcoin. This is like eCash based Satoshis. But you know, I'm always trying to think of, we haven't bubbled it up to the user interface right now, but like I would encourage people to go read tonygiorgio.com/Fedimint, because you know, I try to express these ideas and I would like to bubble up some of those to the UI at some point.
Would you agree with the statement that if you're using a Fedimint, you're converting your Bitcoin into a Bitcoin pegged shitcoin?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like think of it that way.
I think something important to note here is like, you know, Bitcoin in its current form, like, absolutely will not scale for everyone to be self-custodial on chain. Like, you know, if like, I think Paul did this math and they like kind of opened to me. It's like, we were talking earlier, like 100K sats for a lightning channel. It's like, if every single person on planet Earth opened a 100K lightning sat channel, that would be half of all Bitcoin, basically, which is like, you know, it's too late for everyone to get all that. So like, we're not gonna be able to scale on chain or even Lightning to like every single person. So unless we get some like super fancy soft forks to enable lots of other things, Fedimint's kind of the only solution right now that's like going to be able to like have people use Bitcoin without like going to something like a Coinbase. And so
Or
like
an
this is,
ETF?
yeah, or an ETF. But like, you know, ETFs don't allow payments, and you know, you can't zap someone from ETF.
And they also hold their Bitcoin on Coinbase.
Exactly. It's just a layer on top of Coinbase. So
Coinbase layer 2 solution.
yeah. So like in its current form, it's like, you know, we built the self-custodial Lightning wallet and it was doing great, but it's like, you know, we have like few thousand users and we're running to scaling limits already. It's like, if we want to scale to millions of users, like if we want to compete with Cash App and Venmo, we kind of need, you know, something else. Otherwise, we're not going to be able. We'll just be, you know, sitting around with our thumbs up our ass, like, you know, having the moral high ground, but never actually being able to like compete in the global scale. And
like on a Bitcoin side, like, or waiting for a protocol change where it's, you know, I think most Bitcoiners that are educated on the topic think we should be very slow with protocol changes, and then you should not assume any protocol change will happen anytime soon.
Yeah.
So
Hedging
one
your
of the
entire
beauties of
business.
Fedimint is available today. You can use it today.
Yeah. And I'm more interested in things that we can use today. I'm more interested in things that we can build today, because I think there's a lot. I think there's a lot of still unexplored space. And we talk a lot about scaling issues like on chain. There's still like social scaling issues. There's still like, how do we get like as many people just to use Bitcoin even on like Wall Satoshi? Like, I'm sure they have a bunch of users, right? But it's not a big part of the world like using them in the first place. So it's like, you know, I think there's still, I mean, you know, there's the exchanges that are kind of the big bubble that everyone gets to just because that's really easy to push in fiat and buy Bitcoin, and like that's all people do with it. But when it comes to like spending and using Bitcoin, and receiving Bitcoin, there's still a big unexplored spot in penetrating the global market and to trying to get people to do that more with or without like scaling issues that exist. So like the fact that we can do something like Fedimint today and do things like this today to try to get as many people using Bitcoin as possible, or something interoperable with Bitcoin, you know, feel like Bitcoin, right? Like I think there's still a lot of unexplored space into making a really good app that appeals to people and gets them to want to use it. We talk a lot about like covenants and other scaling solutions, right? That I'm on the perspective of, yeah, we should like take some time. I don't want to like hedge a business on a fork of Bitcoin, we always see how badly that turns out. And I think that's bad for the network. I think that's bad for a lot of reasons. But yeah, I'm more interested in things we can do today, things that we can build today, and how we can get people using Bitcoin today.
I think a lot of Bitcoiners are coming at this whole thing from kind of like from a different perspective, in that if you've been in Bitcoin for a long time, you've probably made, Bitcoin transactions that cost you on the order of like, US pennies. And you when you see a lightning wallet or something like that, you're like, oh, I might move a little bit of money out of my cold storage and like open a big channel or something like that, so I can start playing around with, or a medium-sized channel, so I can start playing around with lightning. You're coming from this, I've been stacking for this, long away future. I'm staying humble, and I want Bitcoin to scale, and so I'm going to experiment things, but I'm coming from this, like, this really beautiful, almost perfect system of on-chain Bitcoin. But for someone who is like new to Bitcoin, showing up now, and it's sometimes if your first Bitcoin transaction has like like $5 USD equivalent fees, and like how are you gonna get your first Sats, and so we're kind of like almost taking like, hey, people like using things like Venmo and Cash App, and how do we drive that in the direction of the cypherpunk and unruggable ethos of Bitcoin? But how do we preserve as much of that experience, both in the cost and just general aesthetic of those more popular consumer spending apps? Because I love the cypherpunk stuff, and the cypherpunk stuff got us here, but the cypherpunk stuff, it never seems to go, like this is classic problem with like a PGP. It was a great technical solution, but it never really went broad, because people didn't really embed it into consumer tools. So how do we bring as much as we can achieve without leaving a lot of people behind, of this unruggable, unstoppable cypherpunk ethos?
You guys keep talking about Cash App, Venmo. I mean, I think what I really want to see is, like, I want to see like the signal of payments, the signal app of payments. And like I bring that up deliberately, right? Because you brought up PGP and the adoption issues that we've seen with PGP, and I think Signal has solved a lot of those issues while giving pretty strong privacy guarantees and pretty good performance guarantees. I think Signal right now is at about 400 million users, which is much less than like a WhatsApp, but still an incredible achievement. Like, that's pretty amazing that they've hit that kind of numbers.
I think there's like a line where, depending on how motivated you are to achieve some outcome, is how much pain you're willing to go through to get that outcome. And Signal has done an amazing job of vastly lowering. There's still a little bit of pain, right? If I send a Signal message to a phone number, does it show up as a blue text on their iPhone? So there's still, it's not, but it's, meanwhile, like, there's a lot of other privacy chat apps that I've tried that it includes so much pain and suffering that, unless you were your number one priority in life was privacy, you're not going to use them. So Signal has really lowered that bar, and I think that's beautiful.
Like, Signal, like, is, you have pretty strong privacy guarantees, but you also have stickers now, and you can send video the
I think
things.
I think they still have stories. Has anybody
Yeah, but
ever
no one uses stories.
has
That was
anybody ever posted a story on Signal in all of time?
they should have never. That was such a waste of dev time. But anyway, I digress. Talking about Cash App,
Stories
Venmo.
coming soon to Mutiny.
Yeah, don't add stories. We've been talking about Cash App, Venmo. We haven't really talked about your social features. I mean, I kind of love this idea of Mutiny as like the freedom Venmo. You want to talk about the social features? Why did you guys choose Nostr to integrate with, and how that all works in practice for the end user?
Yeah, I think the Nostr stuff kind of got started because we were playing around with Nostr Wallet Connect. So you could have a Nostr client, and instead of having a built-in wallet in that Nostr client, like a social media style, like Twitter style app, instead of having a built-in wallet in there, you could connect it to your Mutiny wallet. And so you're basically using Nostr Wallet Connect is almost kind of like entering your credit card information. Like you're giving this app, a privilege to ask another app, in this case Mutiny Wallet, to make payments. And on Nostr, those are Zaps. And I think because I don't know the percentage, but a vast number of the I would say a vast majority of the vault number of payments. I don't know about an actual size of payments, but the in actual Sats terms, but the number of payments on Lightning on Nostr, pretty sure dwarfs any other usage of Lightning. And so it makes sense that as a Lightning wallet with Nostr Wallet Connect, people were using it, and so Nostr just became this kind of natural friend to us, and a big place where we were getting users. And so with the social redesign was this idea of, I mean, I didn't have this term right up front, but this is what I'm like retconning everything as is it's a people oriented wallet. I mean, something that I've been kind of surprised to learn, trying to get better at UX stuff, is that it turns out copying pasting a string of text is a no-go for a lot of people. And it's very a sobering realization, because like my text editor, like, it automatically puts a line that I delete into my clipboard. I probably copy and paste like like 5,000 times a day.
Big copy paste guy.
I'm huge into it. And so, but so just kind of realizing, like, okay, this is what we're dealing with. And so the idea that you when you want money, you create an invoice, and then you text that to somebody or email to somebody, or you have to be in person with them and have them scan it or something like that. A good example of this was in Madeira. And I'm sure we've all given this example a million times, but somebody paid for a dinner with their credit card. It was like a group of 10 Bitcoiners. One person paid, and then everybody started calculating how much they owed them, and then asking them, "Hey, make me an invoice. Hey, make me an invoice." And it was just like it was a parallelism problem. Like, there's one dude making invoices on the wall, the guy who wants the money, and so he's got to make the invoice, let the guy scan it, and wait for it to go through. Oh, that didn't work, try a different wall, and so it's taking forever. Meanwhile, having these new social features in there, I searched him on Nostr and zapped him the money, and I was done. I didn't have to scan anything. And so it switched the thing from being this exchange of invoices that people, I think that's complicated for people to even, have a good conception of what that means, to, I'm going to find the person, and I'm going to send them money. So that's the main thing with the social redesign. And so how it works right now is we have Nostr search. We run our own instance of the Primal API, which has some heuristic for what is a real person. So it's not just going to show absolutely random inpubs that are pretending to be Odell, hopefully. And so there's more web of trust stuff to do there as well. And then
in practice, it's like I can just open Mutiny Wallet, I could type in Tony, and I could just send Tony a payment. He doesn't have to send me an invoice. He doesn't have to send anything.
Even better now, what I recommend is that here's how to get started with Mutiny. You download Mutiny, and you join a federation, and then you search up somebody that on Nostr. Maybe it's Tony, and you ask them for money. Because you just start.
Oh,
You
damn it. So many people are going to do that right now.
But you can send a
I'll-
payment
I'll-
request too?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
so that's one of the newer things that we've added is because we added Nostr DMs.
Just don't ask Marty for money; he won't zap you.
Um, because we added Nostr DMs, and right now this will only show up in their wallet if they're following you. But it shows up as a payment request in the app. I mean, this was something that we definitely wanted to replicate from Venmo, Cash App, is being able to request money from people. And so basically all it is it is an invoice. We're just DMing an invoice, but Mutiny understands that and can render that as a payment request, or you can pull up the chat with that person and see it. So that's the prompt. When you find somebody on Nostr in Mutiny search, it pulls up a chat UI, and it says, "Hey, this is your first message with this person. Try asking for money."
Can I submit an audible PR?
Are you creating an issue, or are you submitting
issue.
working code?
It's an issue. It's not working code.
Sure.
Automatic reminders for payment requests. Like you have. There's like some friends that they owe you money and they won't. It takes them weeks to pay you. It'd be nice if just like every week it just automatically like pinged them as like you still haven't paid Odell.
I like that. Yeah, I want to be able to like set up an auto zap where like I want to stream, like you're sad right now and I want to stream you sats to make you feel better. So I'm gonna give you 100 sats every 10 minutes for like 12 hours or something like that. It's just real nice and spammy behavior. But yeah, I don't know if
It's the best kind of
eventually the invoice will expire, so you would need to like somehow like mark it somehow as like, hey, this person really owes me money. I'm not just goofing around here. So yeah, keep asking them until they pay it or something.
Well, I mean, it's a Fedimint. Can't you just create a new invoice automatically on the fly?
Let's see. That's a Ben and Tony question.
Yeah, you could just like pull it from their Lightning address. So in theory, you could totally do that. Of like, we could like make a new standard of like, this is a payment request, and then when the person tries to pay it, it just like pulls an invoice from their that person's Lightning address and pays it.
But anyway, I would say like I fucking hate Venmo, but like that was one of the single biggest value adds was just the fact that you could just like bill friends for paying you back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was one of the big reasons we did.
You text them, you're like, you still owe me $20. You still owe me $20. I forget what it was. I think it was the Bronx Tale or whatever. It was like if a friend owes you $20 and doesn't pay you back, that's like the cheapest way to realize that you're never going to lend them money again. But
well, and weirdly with Lightning, I feel like a lot of times the problem is the opposite, where you'll want to pay somebody back, and you keep on asking them to give you an invoice, and they just never get around to it. Or even if they do give you an invoice, maybe you were like asleep, and when you try to pay it, now they're not online anymore. So now that we have Lightning address, that part is solved too.
Yeah, and that was like one of the big reasons we went with like adding DMs, whereas like we were trying to figure out like, okay, we have like push payments to someone. How do we request payments to someone? And like we were trying to like galaxy brain like some Nostr Connect stuff of like, oh, what if you had like an NWC that you could only ask invoices over for, and you'd create an individual one for each contact so you know who it's from. But it was like that, it just like became like a combinatory explosion of like stupid things. Whereas like, what if we just did DMs and just send an invoice in a DM to them, and like it just handles there. Just like did a total grug brain version of it, and that's what we did because it made it so much simpler. And now we have like chat in the app, so like it's like a feature add as well as like adding the original thing we wanted, which was requests. And like it's cool because like a lot of like Nostr clients like implemented this like a year ago, like before we even had Zaps, where like if you posted an invoice, it would like render it as an invoice. So we just like did the same thing in Mutiny. So now if I like DM an invoice to you, but you don't use Mutiny, you use Primal or you use Damus, you can just see, oh, someone sent me an invoice. You can just hit pay right in, your preferred Nostr client instead of like having to use Mutiny's specific protocol.
Yeah, that's another thing worth noting is a whole big part of this whole social stuff being based on Nostr means this contact list that you're developing of people you pay or ask for money is portable across multiple apps now, which is pretty awesome. We work in Primo, it works in Zeus. It's pretty cool. Instead of, oh, I don't like this wallet anymore, now I got to rebuild my social graph.
Yeah, I mean, and that's one of like the predatory things that like Venmo or Cash App has done, right? Is that if you leave them and you try and go to a different payment app, you got to start your social graph from scratch.
Mm.
And that's not the case anymore. And I mean, I think it's really cool that with Nostr, like first of all, you can build it into your wallet without any permission. You don't have to deal with the potential centralized entity rugging you out of API access. And then the second thing is I mean, you guys, I believe, I don't know if it's still the case, but I believe you're using Primal's caching server, which is false. So you're running your own version of Primal's caching server, which I just think is just so fucking awesome. It's just like compounding freedom. Is that still?
Yeah, we're still running it. Yeah, and it's so quick and fast. I'm like very grateful for the software and the team, but like I want to see like more relays, like normal relays, especially if they're a big relay anyways, running a Primal caching service on the side for their application, right? Like there's no reason that when it comes, just gets into Nostr specific stuff, but there's no reason why you can't have multiple pieces of software in the software stack for like Nostr infrastructure and distribute it where you're hitting many different like normal, very dumb Nostr relays, and then you're also hitting like more advanced functionality you can add onto it as well. So like I would like, it's very great software, and like very thankful for the team for like building it, and also like anytime we run into like little issues here and there, like that they help provide support and like talk to us on like GitHub issues or submit PRs based on our feedback and stuff. So they've been really easy to work with, but then the software itself has been great.
Yeah, what
Go.
Even on like feature requests, they've been great. Like our Zap feed, we originally needed help with them for, and they like within like 2 weeks or something, they had that feature ready for us, and like that's when we first set it up. And I think we needed another one recently for like all the like an API to see like is this a real user or not. And they're like, oh yeah, we already built that. We didn't put it in the GitHub repo yet. We pushed it up immediately, and now we're running it. It's like super nice that they just like work real quick for us.
Yeah, that Zap feed is an example of something that would not be like a feasible query, like between who I'm following, who is zapping them and who are they zapping. That was a question that there wasn't like a good Nostr query for at the time to traditional relay. So it's just information you couldn't really get. Another. This is kind of in the weeds,
And
but
to be clear, that shows which of my friends are paying other people via Zaps. Who's sending public Bitcoin payments between each other?
yeah, it's like stalking people on Venmo, but based on Nostr.
Yeah.
This is very weedsy, but I think it's a good example of why like Primal is nice as the Primal API is nice as an app developer. Is like, when I request that list of Zaps, it comes with like the Primal has like URLs for images. So like the way Nostr works, if you got a list of events, right, and each of those has a profile, you that query might come back with all those profiles, but all those profiles are going to have those avatar image URLs, which are just hosted on a bunch of different places, right? So now your client, like you got a list of 100 different profiles that you want to display. Now your client is going to have to hit up like 100 different web servers for 100 different images that might be not super well optimized and all sorts of things.
They could be malicious and logging IPs even.
Yeah. So and this is not just something that like Primal is fixing. I think I know Stu Satellite.Earth has been thinking a lot about this. Like in the ideal case, you might individual users might run something similar to the Primal caching servers just for themselves. Like I want something like this that acts as a proxy and makes requests from my actual client much more optimized and more private and simpler in a lot of ways. So I'd love to see, Stu's working on stuff like this where you're self-hosting kind of your own caching relays and stuff. And so
So
I'm excited to see things move that way, because that super naive Nostr client that just wakes up and starts asking a million different servers for stuff, it's just not going to ultimately result in the best UX.
So we have Pseudo Carlos in the chat, Ride or Die Freak, saying that he thinks the privacy option for each payment should be more prominent. I would go even further than that. To submit another non-working code issue. It'd be nice if I typed in Tony and I wanted to pay Tony, it should default to private, and then if I want it to be public, I can checkbox public it.
It defaults to private every time right now.
Oh, nice. Already
And
resolved.
then it is a relatively subtle button. So private is just like, hey, there's no Nostr metadata being attached to this payment. It's just
So if I search Tony and pay Tony, it's not publicly going to people's app feed, right?
right. Then if you push that little, it is pretty small button that says private, it goes to private Zap. So that is a payment to Tony where you can include a Zap message, and it shows up for him as a Zap. But that is still not going to people publicly. And then if you push that button one more time, it goes to public Zap, and that's when you're telling everybody.
Well, the fact that we're having this conversation means the UX probably could use a little work, huh, Paul?
Yeah, but yes, absolutely. but I would say I don't know the obvious answer to making that button more prominent and yet not
Well, why not private Zap? Why not just default to private Zap? What's the trade-off there?
I don't remember.
I mean, there's a
I think we talked about wanting to do that instead. But there's even there's anon zaps, private zaps, public zaps. It gets a little weird.
You might want to send a payment to someone and not know you were the one who sent it.
Right,
What's the
private
use
and
case for
public,
that?
people. Yeah, I think there is a use case for
Why I
that.
paid them.
There is some weird implication as well, with private zaps, people can't see that I, gave Paul $100, but everyone can see that Paul received $100 from someone. So it kind of you're kind of flipping
You're
it where
still doxing their payment, kind of. They receive.
yeah.
So you don't. Want
So yeah, if you're sending $100 million, well now it's oh, that guy's rich. I need to go to his house and steal his money.
I'm gonna go hit him with a $15 wrench.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. Tony, I had. We've been talking a lot about Nostr here. I had the Nostr dev call a couple of weeks ago with Hodlbod and Pablo and Mike Dilger. And you felt a little bit. There was a little bit of offense taken there. Do you have any comments that you want to tell the freaks about that rip?
It was a good rip. I was listening to that during a long drive. No, I think
And
my main issue is that the concept model it's interesting. I would suggest if people haven't heard yet, go back and listen to that. It was good. And then there's this thing that we built at Mutiny called Blaster, which is it's compatible with relays, but its whole purpose is you add it as a relay to your Nostr client, and then it will send the message out to every single relay, up to 300 relays that are online on Nostr. So it blasts the message out to as many places as possible, because I consider Nostr a broadcast network, and it's really great at discovering things that have been broadcasted, and is really good at sending things to be broadcasted. And that's how I see Nostr the best. Everyone has their own opinions. Everyone can have. I mean, you can have different opinions. You can have different things that you would want to build on top of Nostr. Oh, that's fine. But I think the things that I had problems with were just mostly some comments that were made throughout it that said I didn't care about Nostr, and my opinion doesn't matter. and so like, it not if anyone just said that, like, it's fine, I don't care. But like to have some of these like prominent Nostr people consider like myself and the Mutiny team like not caring about Nostr, like we're building so much on top of this and for the users and having this interoperability. Like we're very much hinged right now on the success of Nostr as well as anyone else is. So that was the main thing I wanted to say. Like the open protocol of Nostr is like it's both a great feature for users of Mutiny to have, just the fact that like they can take their identity anywhere else and things like that. But it's a great feature for a business. Just the fact that we can plug into this and like let's say a more well capitalized company than Mutiny pulls in like hundreds of thousands to millions of users that we can't pull in ourselves. But now all of a sudden we're interoperable with that, and now that we have, I don't think Paul mentioned it, but now that we have this like social feature, like anyone that uses Mutiny and is not a Nostr user, well, now they're a Nostr user. We like create a Nostr account for them if they don't already bring one in to the wallet. You can import it, but if you don't bring one in, now you're a Nostr user. And now you can set a profile, you can set a Lightning address, you can set your name and other things like that. So now we're starting to, we haven't had this sort of support before. We were using Nostr, but we weren't like adding to the social Nostr profile, part of Nostr. But now with this latest feature, like now anyone that comes in and likes Mutiny as a wallet, well, now they're a new Nostr user. And now they are interoperable with Primal. They're interoperable with Amethyst and Damus, and they can send zaps back and forth. We just kind of specialize in just the payment activity. We don't like show note fees, and I don't know if we want to get into that at all. I would prefer not to, at least for a long time. But now we're contributing back to the Nostr ecosystem through the use of its profile feature. And I think that's really valuable. And now we can kind of contribute back and kind of try our best to get more Bitcoiners using our wallet and then now using Nostr. So yeah, I mean, I thought it was a great episode. I really enjoyed it. I just had a few complaints about people just brushing off my opinions of Nostr and the blaster thing we built and all the other Nostr features that we built, and kind of just saying we don't care about Nostr at all.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I think you clearly care about Nostr to the point where if there's probably a bunch of blue check Bitcoiners listening to this rip that think we've talked about Nostr too much already. Second of all, I wanted to mention that Hodlebod is in the live chat saying that he appreciates your work. I love that dude. He's a good dude. But I definitely appreciate you guys. I mean, I think you guys are building one of the most useful Bitcoin apps and one of the most useful Nostr apps in existence right now. So thank you guys. And I know I submit a lot of non-code working issues. So thank you for dealing with me. And then last but not least, I'm kind of curious. Well, first I want to talk about Blaster a little bit. So like Blaster is like this idea that like I put nostr.mutinywallet.com in my relay list and it just blasts my notes out to how many relays? 300, the top 300 relays, or is it every relay?
Top 300 that are currently online.
Why do you stop at 300?
Just from a cost perspective, and at the time there was kind of only like 300. Like there's I think maybe 1,000 or two. Like most of them are offline. And yeah, at the time I haven't checked lately. There's an API that we hit to Nostr.watch to see who's online at the time. But yeah, it's also a cost perspective. Every 50 that we add to it adds a little bit more to the cost. But we do all that and we push like 25,000 messages a day through it. At one point we were doing 100,000, but I think someone was just broadcasting all Nostr events through us, so we censored that IP address. I mean I'm more of the perspective of like if an individual wants to volunteer into broadcasting the notes that they see and the broadcast the notes that they make and get those to as much reach as possible, I'm all for that. I think like businesses, if it was the monster people themselves, I don't know who it was. I think they should either do it themselves or I don't know.
I kind of
pay.
look at it like I look
but-
at Fedimint. Like, I'm into Nostr for the censorship resistance, and I hope that we have stuff like the outbox model and other iterative improvements that make Nostr more censorship resistant. But until then, like, Blaster works today, so I'm going to blast my notes out to every relay that will accept them, and Blaster makes it incredibly easy for me to do that without directly broadcasting to all of them and potentially leaking IP addresses if my VPN fails or something like that.
Exactly, and it's I say, like, from a cost perspective, we don't want to just like bubble up into like thousands of relays, but like like it just only costed us like $50-$60 a
We
month
have
for the past year, doing 25,000 a day. So like it's not even that it's much, but I just don't want to keep like 300 is fine. uh, if we really need to get into more, we can. I'm happy to blast more if that's what people want.
We
I
have
have
Kieran in the chat, by the way, who's the maintainer of Zapstream. Thank you, Kieran, for your work.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, some people wanted it to die since day one. Like, we've been operating it for like over a year at this point, and not a single person has asked me to stop. Like, I'm being honest. Like, not a single person said stop doing.
What I was going to
this.
say is,
And
regardless of Blaster, I broadcast to Kieran's relay just because I like Zapstream and I want to make sure it works correctly.
yeah, but yeah, that's the thing. I don't think anyone like will want to ask me to stop. I think they also feel that it's a thing that they can't stop as well, or if they try to stop, there would have some consequences of that. So it's just like a thing that, like, I think it's a protocol that is great for broadcasting notes and getting those seen by the most amount of people. I don't think it's a protocol for communities unless you really try to close down things, which is fine. You can close down things and create your community on top of it. I think client selection stuff needs to be a lot better if that's the goal, and I think you can make your own client that specializes in communities. But I think Nostr, as it is right now, is a broadcast
To
system.
be fair, that's what
and
Hodlbot is doing with Coracle.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. I mean, I think I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to say don't do that. Like, I think it's a great idea, but like, you can build it on top of it. But like, Nostr as an open protocol system of itself, if you run any open relay, you're participating in this public broadcast system. And so if you have any problems with that, you need to close down your relay to either like shut it down completely or just like close it off to just like a community.
Yeah. If Blaster didn't exist,
yeah.
I would just broadcast directly to a shit ton of relays.
Yeah. Or create your own software to do it.
Well, or ask you to, but yeah.
Yeah.
I also want the record to show that I invited Tony onto that rip and he declined.
oh wow.
Yeah.
Correct, Tony?
I think I was like moving that day.
But the important thing is the invite was made. And then last but not least, Tony, following that rip, you said you were going to integrate Twitter into Mutiny Wallet. Are you actually going to do that, or was it just an
that was a side-handed note that maybe one day we actually do. I mean, okay, let's talk about that for a second. Because I think it's really interesting. Like, imagine this. Like, imagine if we were through the DMs, like we let's say we just paid for the API access and we just like, bowed down to Elon for a moment. But just the idea that like, okay, now we were already plugged into a system where there's potentially like 100,000 or so users, or maybe 50 to 100,000 users have set Lightning addresses on Nostr. So like all of a sudden we plug into that. But now like all of a sudden we plug into a system where there's like millions of people with like that could either have a Lightning address in their bio, or we can just send eCash to them in a DM. Like, at the end of the day, we're trying to pay people, and we're the most amount of people. I think that's on Twitter. So, and if you use Mutiny Wallet or sign up to redeem the eCash, then all of a sudden, like, now you have a Nostr account, and there was already like a website a year ago. I haven't seen it be used in quite a while or suggested in quite a while.
I think it's dead now.
Yeah, but there was I think the API is closed off anyways, and it died. But let's say you do pay for the APIs, where you can just do that, where now you can link Twitter accounts to Nostr accounts and make this discovery on Nostr a whole lot better. And now the interoperability between the two,
Yeah, I'm not
are a lot
against it.
better.
Of course, the
Yeah.
issue is that Elon could just shut it down immediately whenever he wants. Right.
Yeah,
And
or
that's the
like
beauty of Nostr is that
raise the prices a
not
little bit, but
someone that can do that. Yeah, I mean, you should add TikTok integration, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter,
why
LinkedIn.
stop it?
But
I mean, if you think about it,
the key is that they can all get blocked at will
Facebook
at any point.
was
And
like the
Nostr-
portable social graph. I feel like that's a lot of my friends on Venmo. Well, back when I used Venmo, was I think I did like a Facebook import. I love how like I'll be on some random device and I'll get like a calendar notification from like somebody I knew 20 years ago, and it's all because at some point I integrated something with Facebook and that birthday info became viral. But yeah, I do think there's so much there to. I mean, it's ultimately it's just like, what are we trying to do? Like we want good money, and we want to be able to send and receive that money, and so to
100%.
people and to businesses, and so and the problem is so many people try to like stop us from doing those things, and so we have to have these very decentralized cypherpunk technologies that are unruggable. But when we can, when we are allowed into spaces, I don't think we should be, afraid of them.
Big Mutiny fans are big fans of asking for permission. I think it's important to call out on the audio stream here that responded and the word actually uses Blaster. Don't shut it down. Haha. Kieran knows that I will read
Funny.
any of his
I didn't know.
comments regardless of zaps being attached to them because I appreciate him so much. So he didn't include any sats with that comment. This has been fantastic. Do you guys have anything else you want to cover while I have you?
I think the lightning address stuff we just launched.
Yeah, that's badass. So I have to be a subscriber to get it, right? It's an @mutiny.plus lightning address.
Yeah, exactly.
Can we talk about subscription payments?
Yeah, we can do that as well.
Because I brought it up to Pierre on the Phoenix Rip last week, and he made me feel like I was a crazy person.
I haven't listened
How
to
so?
that one.
How
That's on my
so?
list.
How are you crazy?
Well, he's not paying attention to Nostr. They don't really care about Nostr, and they're like full force ahead on Bolt 12. And he doesn't think like I mean, I don't want to put words in his mouth. Like people can listen to the rip last week, but it doesn't seem like NWC is a priority, and like how you guys implemented subscriptions through NWC. And maybe part of the issue was me explaining it, so I will take some responsibility there.
I think the main advantage is like Bolt 12 has been talked about for like 4 years, it feels like now, and like we implemented NWC in about 2 hours. So like, we can do subscriptions with NWC. We've been doing them for the last year versus, Bolt 12 still doesn't exist, at least in production yet. So it's like,
Yeah, but if anyone can force it through, it's Async and Phoenix.
Wait,
I mean, for them, but like 90% of Lightning nodes are LND, which are not getting Bolt 12 for like multiple years. So like sure you could subscribe to Async, but like if I want to subscribe to Bitrefill or the Bitcoin company who like they run LND nodes, it's like okay, I can't subscribe to them, and they have to change their entire infrastructure to support that.
So let's talk about how NWC subscriptions work.
I mean, NWC is like basically just you're basically over a Nostr DM sending an invoice saying like please pay this. And then the wallet can implement any kind of logic. So like in Mutiny, we have we have two modes. One's like auto approve with a budget. So like as long as this invoice isn't within my budget, I'll pay it automatically. Otherwise, there's like the click to approve where every single invoice shows up as a request and you can approve or deny it manually. And so basically like for subscriptions, we just, add whatever the days like your subscription lapses, we just send you an invoice of like, hey, pay this for your next month of Mutiny Plus, and then your wallet's configured to pay it however you want. And
So it
like,
feels like a pull payment, like a credit
yeah,
card pull payment, but it's really a push payment, right? It's like when your client comes online, it's actually pushing the payment. It's just getting the request, the invoice through
Yeah.
Nostr.
Yeah, if you sign up for Mutiny Plus, it will create one of these wallet connections, which what we call our NWC connections. And so it's like a list of outstanding NWCs like that your wallet will recognize. But then you also have the option to hit the checkbox for auto pay. You are like always in control. It is not in fact a pull payment, but
But your client still needs to come online to push the payment.
yeah. And speaking of with Bolt 12, I don't know exactly how this would work with Phoenix, because if your node isn't online because your phone isn't open, is it going to see the Bolt 12 payment request?
Yeah, because they are the only ones who have implemented Trampoline, and the LSP has Trampoline, and so does the client. So the
Well,
LSP
even regardless, Bolt 12 for this specific case will help solve receiving into the wallet. This is Bolt 12 isn't something that's going to help like subscription payments. That doesn't do anything as far as that goes. So like it's not even there's not even a comparison there. Like
No, it handles like the Nostr address book instead of having like an npub attached to a Lightning address, right? You just have a Bolt 12 attached to your contact book.
Like instead of a Lightning address.
Yeah.
yeah, there's the Lightning address thing but that's receives. So like Nostr Wallet Connect, this is a payment request solution. This isn't like a payment receiving, like
It's
human
sending
addressable
an
name
invoice. You're
solution
sending an invoice through Nostr automatically. Right?
for the wallet to pay.
If you wanted to connect your Phoenix wallet to a Nostr client, you would want some way to give invoices to that wallet asynchronously, so that when you open the wallet, it can choose to pay them.
Awesome. Do you guys see Kieran's comments about trying to get his Lightning address set
How
up?
did we scam them?
I don't know.
He's a
Make sure
paying subscriber.
you're on the recent version 0.6.3. It should just be in your like profile settings.
Kieran,
so-
we love you, but this is not a support line.
just for a little clarity for how Mutiny Plus works, because iOS doesn't allow, you can't do like in-app, like you can't pay for an Audible subscription you can't pay for like digital products, especially that
You're blue
enable
check.
feature the apps inside of an Apple app, inside an iOS app. And so if you have the iOS app, you can just go to plus.mutinywallet, or what was it? Mutiny.plus or whatever, or
What is the domain?
plus.mutinywallet.com. Mutiny.plus. You go to mutiny.plus, and there's a QR you can scan, and you'll get to like the secret page where you can pay
Subscribe.
for Mutiny Plus. And then after that, then you go to your profile, or at the bottom of that page, there should be a create an address button, or you can go to your profile page and there should be an option to
So you
create
can
an
go back
address
to iOS and go to your profile page.
if you've joined a federation. So you'll need to join a federation, and then you'll get the option to create an address. Yeah.
Wait, I think we're answering and he went AFK. He's not even listening.
Yeah, classic.
But yeah, I mean on that topic, Lightning address in general, the way like doing Lightning address in a non-custodial setting is very difficult, especially for mobile wallets. It's why we haven't really seen it from Breeze or Phoenix for one. Zeus
Well, we
has
saw
it.
from Zeus and you banned them. You want to talk about
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. Well, so this is the
They're not
problem
fully
with trying to
banned.
do.
There's a choice.
Yeah, there's a problem with the way. I mean, this is the problem. Self-custodial Lightning addresses in a mobile context is you're not online to finish the payment, so payments get stuck. Those get stuck across the whole entire Lightning network. Channels close as a result of it. It especially hurts if you're a mobile user paying to a Zeus address user, because you might not come back online to finish the failure part of the payment, and then your channel as a Mutiny user gets closed. So those have caused like too many problems for Mutiny, for Mutiny users, for other wallet devs, for other routing nodes on the network. And I think Blix has a similar solution as well. The way we wanted to go about it is like using Fedimint for federated addresses. So instead of a single custodian being like, instead of going this way where you just hold payments forever, and then the other end of the spectrum is that you just have a custodian for your Lightning address. We see that a lot with people with Satoshi addresses or Get Alby addresses. So that's the other end of the spectrum.
Or Strike.
Yeah, Primal as well with Strike. The middle ground is using a federation for it, where like not a single party can take the funds. And the way we do it has been heavily inspired by, I think it's the mini bits people or just the eCash address people. I forget if they're the same people, but they've been like they're moving really fast when it comes to eCash innovation, because a lot of Fedimint is working on just the federated protocol as well. So like eCash has had this concept for a few months now, eCash locked to your Nostr pub key. So that inspired Cody Lowe and then us to come in and build a solution like that, but on top of Fedimint. So whenever you create a Fedimint address, a Lightning address of Mutiny that's backed by a federation, but not only that, it's your eCash is locked to your public key. So when you come back online, only you can sweep the funds and redeem it into your own Fedimint or to your own Lightning, to your own Lightning node. So it's this kind of middle ground where like even the Lightning address server can't steal your funds after, because it's settled. The Lightning payment is settled directly into pub key locked eCash. So even after that happens, the Lightning address server like DMs you on Nostr, here is your eCash information. The worst they can do is just stop doing that and not redeeming the funds, but they can't ever steal the funds.
They can stop you from getting paid.
Right, exactly. They can, it can either shut down or not send the DM or something like that, but they can't steal the funds. So it's still trusted, but it's like not custodial in that regard.
Am I correct that you get it's if you get paid via the Lightning address versus like sending an invoice, is it worse privacy? Like, can the Lightning address server can spy on your payment receives, right? Obviously, it knows.
I mean, they'll know what you received. But here's the cool thing, and like very few people will probably appreciate this, but the way we've gone about Lightning address names too, we use the same eCash technology for Lightning name registration. So we do what's called like blinded authentication for Lightning address registration. So basically what that means is when you're a Mutiny Plus user, you get these blinded tokens that allow you to use one of them to redeem a Lightning address name. And so you reserve the name, it registers a pub key from the wallet that the eCash is locked to. And from there, there's like no way we can correlate any of your wallet information from your Lightning address. So like at that way, it's kind of separate. So we'll know your this random name is getting a bunch of sats, but we don't know anything about the user. We don't know who they are at the end of the day, besides like, okay, if it's Odell at Mutiny.plus, then it might be you, or it might be someone that took that name first. We don't know. But we don't know anything about the underlying wallet. We don't know like their sats. We don't like everything we build is so it's the most private as possible. And that goes. And so from there, like we want to use the same tech to do support tickets. So if you make a support ticket, we don't know anything about you, your wallet, or anything else. You can, and we don't know anything about your previous support ticket. There's just like random support ticket that we know that the user has like either paid for or been a Mutiny Plus user and they get a few for free. something like that. So like this tech can be used to like basically all we care about is like, have they paid? We don't care about who they are, what they do. In fact, like the more information we know, the worse the user is off, the worse we are off, because now we have more information to protect. So the least amount that we know is better for everyone all around. And we kind of started building this blinded authentication registration stuff to kind of, build towards that direction.
That's awesome. Do you want to talk about the issues with Zeus's implementation as you feel, and like why you have it blocked? I mean, am I correct that? Okay, go on. Let's talk about
No,
it.
I thought we were. Yeah, I thought explain it. It just locks Lightning payments. Anything that locks Lightning payments for a long period of time is harmful for the network. It causes forced closures. We
So
just
now,
did it for Zaps. We mostly just did it for Zaps, and you can turn that off if you wanted to. The thing with Zaps is like people were zapping like 21 sats or something like that to others, and then going offline, and those payments were getting stuck and causing forced closure. And like at first, it's so funny. Like one user, when we made that announcement, he was like, "What the fuck? This is not okay. I can't believe you're censoring." And then like 5 minutes later, he was like, "Oh, I just checked the wallet and my channel closed. I support this feature." And it's like it's not we might disagree with the approach. I don't
that's
think
not
it
the
works
issue.
very well for our wallet, but we'll allow it if people want to turn that off.
Well, so if they're paying
But
from Fedimint, it doesn't have that problem
oh,
anymore, or does it still have that problem?
yeah, so no forced closes on Fedimint, which is great. So the way we rolled out this Fedimint integration, there was some confusion about. So, some people add a Fedimint that have been a Mutiny user for a long time. So like the first question they ask is like, "Cool, I added a Fedimint. How do I receive to it? How do I send from it? How do I like swap and all this stuff?" And the whole point of it is that you add the Fedimint, and especially if you have a Lightning channel too, and it's a hybrid mode, it just should make the best decisions for you based on the context. So it's like if you
Automatically
receive,
does it.
yeah, if you create an invoice for under 200,000 sats, that just goes to the Fedimint first. And then you can decide when you want to open a channel with it. We make no decisions for you on that. Like you're in control of your funds. It's just like by default under 200K goes in the Fedimint. Spending, we spend from the Fedimint first, right? Like you should have, we kind of look at it as a middle ground. Like you should spend your hot wallet sats first and keep your cold storage sats like protected. The same applies in this scenario. You should keep your Fedimint sats. You should let those go first, and you should hold this sort of self-custodial Lightning balance as much as you can. So we spend from the Fedimint first if there's a balance available, and then fall back to like the Lightning channel if there's funds on there. The cool thing is that like spending from the Fedimint first, all those like 20 sat payments that might not complete that you go offline for, well, that's actually okay now. You can go offline. When you come back online, you can settle the eCash settlement like when it come online. Like it's not a problem at all. So there's no forced closure concerns there. You can go offline and come back online later. So I just think it's it solves a lot of pain points from channel closes unexpectedly for just tiny payments. It would probably be able to pay Zeus Pay users a little easier because they won't have that problem. And yeah, no, I think that covers everything from that
I
perspective.
fucking love the hybrid model.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Some people have wanted like to make it configurable. I think that's reasonable in the settings somewhere. I
in
felt like
advanced,
200
we'll
is
see.
like a good starting point. There's a
Well, like
certain point where like
people,
if you're putting millions, millions and millions of sats in the Unity wallet, like we're optimizing for being a hot wallet, spending wallet first. So like at a certain point, you should just like get those sats off.
I know it's like a priorities thing, but like maybe like in 6 months, a year or something, like maybe the flow is that there's like, like Android, you can go into developer mode. Like maybe it's, you go into advanced settings and you switch to advanced mode or something, and then the interface is a little bit different for like advanced users. Maybe that's the play, but I mean, I'm not saying that this should be a priority in terms of development, but at some point, you add all these nice polished features, and then you want to give the role, like maybe they add advanced mode.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that is
think
definitely the UX trade-off over and over, is if you give more choices to people because you want to empower them to have, more control, you confuse other people.
Yeah.
yeah, my hope is we could just have like Fedimint only mode, like hybrid mode, like which kind of exists now, and then like a third mode that's like hybrid but prefer self-custody, where like any stats in your Fedimint are just auto sweeps to self-custodial. So
I
you can
like
still
that.
have like all the nice features, but then like the second you come online, it's swept to your self-custodial, so you don't have to like have that trust when you don't need it. And like that wouldn't be too hard to build. It's just priorities and stuff like you said, but stuff like that would be fun, where it's like we can just kind of have all the use cases with just like a mode selector or something.
Oh, the cool one, we were talking about NWC and some of this stuff.
Mhm.
The cool one is like we're thinking about some like a Fedimint based module that one of the problems with Nostr Wallet Connect is like, yeah, if you're a Mutiny user, you do have to come back online for those payments to go through. Even if it's on auto approve, you still have to come online and those payments will be auto approved, but you have to be online. We might be able to do something with like a Fedimint module where you can like pre-fund, let's say like 10K sats that, whatever your budget is, you can pre-fund it. And Nostr, not because of the Fedimint could use the same keys as Nostr and it's all distributed, like those, you could have pub key locked eCash to the Federation, where when Nostr Wallet Connect messages come in, then the Guardians will like decide whether or not to fulfill those Lightning invoices. So you could have like a federated offline Nostr Wallet Connect module, where now all of a sudden your Nostr Wallet Connect messages are actually, going to the Federation, and those are being paid for while you're actually offline. And so like we can facilitate sort of like offline payments that way for the user. So like that's something like pretty advanced, but like that's one of the things we're kind of running into now is like users are like unsure about Nostr Wallet Connect and like, oh, I set auto approval, but like those didn't send out. Another evolution of that could be like a federated instance for these Nostr Wallet Connect messages.
Yeah, and then it's like you only need to come online once like that balance is depleted, and like we could just like push notification, oh, open the wallet to top up your NWC, and then it's like good to go from there.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Awesome. This has been a great chat, fellas. I've enjoyed it. I hope the freaks have enjoyed it as well. If you're in the live chat, feel free to drop any questions if you think we didn't cover anything. Do you guys have anything you want to cover that we haven't covered?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing from our perspective, like we really do want to get feedback and to like feature requests, especially like bigger ones, like bug features for sure. Like keep sending those through, but like one of the things now, like we finally got like some of this Fedimint stuff in there. We finally got Lightning address. We'll have that released more broadly for other people soon. We're still working out the kinks. We had some few problems with Mutiny addresses yesterday that we fixed. So we're rolling that out slowly. But yeah, any big features, any like direction you want to see Mutiny head towards, like this is kind of now the time to ask, because like we're very like user feedback driven, and we've sort of solved a lot of those problems over the last few weeks. So we really want to head towards a direction that people can suggest.
And so, some of the best feedback right now for us is like the user stories type. Like I am this kind of guy, and I'm trying to pay this kind of thing. Like this is what I'm trying to accomplish. Like if you want to tell us like that certain button should be like more visible or something, that's great too. But explaining use cases that right now, like you think Lightning is almost able to fulfill, but it can't yet. Like basic things like like I'm doing remittance payments, or like, hey, there's a guy that wants to accept Bitcoin, but he has this misgiving, and so he wants me to be able to pay him in Bitcoin, but this is the reason he won't let me pay him in Bitcoin. That kind of feedback, because we're pretty technical, and we have the ability to potentially solve some of these get over some of the hurdles that maybe we haven't gotten yet for for general spending in Bitcoin. So yeah, I'd love that kind of feedback as well.
I see some questions in the comments that I'd like to cover real quick. Ben, in the beginning of Mutiny, you kept talking about CoinJoin. Is CoinJoin going to happen in Mutiny?
And I would like to, but it's like we've more and more just gone down this like social payments wallet, so it doesn't fit in as much. And like the thing is, like Fedimint's kind of like a better privacy tool than CoinJoin, so we've kind of like solved like our what we wanted CoinJoin to solve already with Fedimint. I mean, like the real like if we wanted to do CoinJoin, I'd want to do something like you could CoinJoin into a federation, and then it'd be like it'd be like a CoinJoin, but it's even cheaper, and you get better privacy at the like the post mix privacy is like a lot easier, but it'd be a lot to build, and we it's just like it'd be have to be like a whole separate app versus from Mutiny, because like CoinJoins on mobile wallets don't work the best. So it's something like we'd like to do one day maybe, but
Priorities.
yeah, it's priorities.
Question is, if Phoenix adds Bolt 12, you guys are based on LDK. You're going to add Bolt 12 support?
I did a Bolt 12 for Mutiny in like October. I did one on test network, but like I had to like fork a bunch of stuff and like make the channels public and all that stuff to get it to work. I would love to add support for it. It's just I think like LDK has it like in beta. I don't think it's fully supported yet. And then we have other issues where like even if like everything's supported Bolt 12 and LDK and Mutiny, it's like okay, like you need a lot of the network to support like routing onion messages. Otherwise, you can't get those payments across. And like I forget who, but I think in Carla was posting
Can
the
we
other
do
day.
Bolt 12 with Nostr messages instead of onion messages?
And theoretically, but then it's not Bolt 12 anymore.
Bolt 13?
Yeah, Bolt 13.
We have Bolt 12 at home. It's called NWC.
Yeah.
we could pay Bolt 12, right, Ben?
Not yet. I mean, yeah, the receiving of Bolt 12 is a lot more complicated, or like especially for mobile. But in theory, we could add paying Bolt 12 a lot easier. It's just like I don't know. I haven't had time to get it working. Like, it breaks a lot of the assumptions we made inside the wallet for like everything not being able to pay multiple times. So we'd have to like do some big refactors in the code. But in theory, we could do it.
Awesome.
Someone mentioned splicing. That's another thing that we would be basically waiting on LDK for. But I think it would be great. Again, Phoenix is doing such a good job. I do like that there's there's basically one big channel, and it makes a lot more sense. I feel like it's easier to explain to a user, which is exciting from my perspective.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. I would love splicing is like getting pretty close in LDK. They just merged the basically like the negotiation protocol of the transaction. Now it's just like they just need to do like the opening the channel part. So should be pretty soon, hopefully.
Awesome.
Someone said do something to help poor people.
Do you even care?
Yeah, do I even get one feedback that we get when we're sitting in our ivory tower in our first world luxury, is that Tether is a big deal to a lot of people around the world, and it's tough for me because I don't deal with it day to day. I don't have anybody in my life that I'm like doing remittances to. um, and so feedback along those lines of like what are they actually trying to accomplish. Are people walking around with a bunch of Tether in a self-custodial wallet? Do they have a bunch of Tether on Binance? Does it never like really rest anywhere? They just use it as a transport mechanism for USD value, and then they like swap it to a local currency right away. That kind of feedback would be very helpful for me right now, because we're definitely looking into how do we serve those people.
Awesome. Cool. I'm having Hazard on Dispatch next week to talk about Blossom.
Oh yeah.
That's a product of Madeira, right?
Mm-hmm.
project that came out of Madeira. Blossom is like this idea of distributed storage using a Nostr spec. Is my understanding correct?
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, the dream, right, is to I mean, we were talking about Blaster before, right? And I think it's funny when Nostr is all about like making like dumb trade-offs, doing the dumb simple thing because it actually works instead of having like the perfect galaxy brain
Yeah.
distributed network that nobody uses because it's too complicated or it's fragile in some sense, right? So like people use like CDNs all the time on Nostr to host images. You know, Nostr has not solved like some decentralized hosting. We don't put media on our relays. We just put them on Amazon basically. And so, you know, there's this dream. If you had dropped before even Nostr has this really great essay on why IPFS doesn't work. But there's this dream of having this like decentralized, you know, media hosting. And so how do you do that? Yeah, there was I remember I don't want to take any more credit for this than I don't want to take any credit for this, but I want to brag that I was at a barbecue in Madeira. So every week in Madeira on a Friday we would do a demo day. People would show off what they're working on, and then we do a barbecue after, and there's a lot of good conversations because we just saw so much stuff, and we're like started talking to each other about what we're working on. And I walked up to Stu and Hazard talking about this like Blossom idea, and the idea is it was like, is this too dumb? Was Hazard's question. It's like, is this too simple? Because all he's doing is basically using using CDNs, still using Amazon, but making the content hash addressable. So the default is a hash, and then there's also you get better discoverability because you have Nostr as this discoverability layer, and also you have you reduce the search space because when you publish some media, you also have the pub key of the person publishing it, because that's one of the big problems with IPFS is you have hash based, you know, content addressing, so you know the exact hash of the thing, and that's enough to find the thing theoretically, but you end up searching this huge sprawling decentralized network and taking, you know, days to find a file. And so if Nostr can just say like, yes, you know, here is somebody published this at this CDN, um, and if it doesn't exist on that CDN anymore, then because you have the hash, Nostr is going to help you, you know, with Blossom find the fallback. And it's pretty simple of a concept, but it might just be. He also has like an API for you know, uploading and listing files and stuff like that. But it's a pretty simple idea, but it really might just be enough to add just
Kind of
enough
awesome.
decentralization to like CDN based image hosting to like we can live in this beautiful world. I'm so stoked on it, and it was just so cool to like be around those guys when they're coming up with those ideas.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm gonna have them on Wednesday, 1700 UTC, same time as this rip. Should I have anyone else join me for it? I feel like it's a little. Is it a little bit above my pay grade? I think I can handle it on my own, right?
I don't. I mean, what is your pay grade?
I don't know. No one knows my pay grade. My pay grade is private.
Stu would be good to get on as well.
Who the fuck is Stu?
Satellite.
Oh, dude, he's had some bangers of episodes last few weeks. You should
Can you
definitely have him
introduce
on
me to
too.
Stu?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, after we
Yeah.
end introduce me to Stu. Maybe I'll have him join me.
Him, Hazard and Stu were working on also like a Discord alternative on Nostr.
Oh yeah, maybe I'll have Stu on too. Can you introduce me? We're
Yeah.
talking about
Yes.
business on air.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
then, so I'm going to have Hazard on next week, Wednesday, 1700 UTC, and hopefully Stu as well. And then live Will from Damas the week after that, also 1700 UTC. I really like 1700 UTC. And sorry if you work a fiat job in America and that's like dead center in the middle of your workday. I just like it. It's good. It's a good time to rip. Guys, I don't know if you saw, we are officially an hour and 55 minutes into this rip, which means it's ride or dies only have made it this far. Um, I don't know. Did you see my notes about Sailor and open source devs?
Oh yeah.
Should we talk about that real quick? Or, I mean, because you guys weren't aware, I don't think of any of that.
I did
Um,
not see these notes. So I've heard that Matt said something about Sailor, but
I don't know. There's
please
like all
explain
these
it.
conspiracy theories. Like, I really don't have much to gain from talking about this publicly, except that I just feel like it should be public. I mean, I've sat on it for about 4 months now because this was pre-launch ETFs when this happened. And everyone just keeps asking me for a source. Give me a source, like Source Seagulls. Like, I'm the co-founder of OpenSats. Like, I'm in charge of trying to get as many donations as possible to open source developers. What
You are the
better?
source.
I'm the fucking source, and like, you don't have to believe me. That's fine. But like, I felt like it needed to be public. And I'm very grateful for Bitwise that Bitwise decided to support a split donation between OpenSats, Brink, and HRF, 10% for 10 years, split evenly. I'm very grateful to Van Eck, who's just supporting Brink. Like, you don't have to donate to OpenSats. Like, I don't make any money when OpenSats gets donations. I do it all for free. But like, there's a shit ton of ETFs. Is it not curious to anybody why there aren't more ETFs that are supporting open source developers? And I don't think anyone should be forced to support open source. Like, if you don't want to make a donation, don't make a donation. That's fine. But when you're actively out there, stop trying to convince other people not to donate to open source. That's a fucking problem, and it's frustrating. It's incredibly
What
frustrating.
what would the reasoning be? Why would
Um,
Sailor prefer an ETF to
I,
not
and
support open source?
the most frustrating part of the whole thing is, like, if you just ask Sailor, he will tell you that he doesn't think you should support open source developers. Like, it's not like I don't I don't I don't think it's something he would deny. I think it's something he would proudly encourage you not to support open source developers. And it's because he comes from the ossification side. And I'm not a guy who's like super pro soft fork. Like, I hated on Twitter when people were like, these 10 people agree with the soft fork. Like, I'm going to go for a soft fork. Like, I think we should be very deliberate with consensus changes. And it take a lot of review. I mean, Bitcoin's beautiful in that way. It does take a lot of momentum and motivation to do any kind of real changes to Bitcoin.
So the idea would be if you have like a bunch of like protocol devs with cushy salaries sitting around bored, they'd
They're
start
going to like
getting
dev up
soft
soft
fork.
fork.
Mm.
Yeah, but like, OpenSats has 100+ grants out, and none of them are focused on soft forks. Like, I mean, I think the XZ Tools issue was like a maintainer that was absentee, right? It's like, maintenance is important. Maintenance is important. Code review is important. Like, all these things are incredibly important. Like, we're securing trillions of dollars on Bitcoin. Bitcoin's a $1 trillion asset right now. Like, you have to support the open source contributors that keep all this shit secure. And I've dedicated a large portion of my life to making that a reality for free. Um, and I don't want credit for it. Like, I don't need credit for it. But like, if someone's out there actively attacking that mission, right, and actively stopping that mission, that's incredibly frustrating. And people say like, oh, like, what kind of threat could Sailor make to an ETF? Like, I don't think Sailor has. Owning more Bitcoin doesn't give you more ability to change the protocol or do anything with Bitcoin. That's the beauty of Bitcoin. But that doesn't mean that just some random suit isn't going to choose not to support open source developers because Sailor tells them not to. Um,
It,
and people should just question this. People should ask, what the fuck is going on?
like if it's purely because of like he's in favor of ossification, like I think that's like if he believes that, like I have a lot less respect for him because like he should like he's been running a software company for 30 years. He should understand like 99% of like Bitcoin development is not working on soft forks. It's like literally everything else, maintaining code and wallets and everything that people do.
That's software anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's been running one for 30 years, but that just makes me think. Okay, it's much more likely he's just a bad actor, and his company is like right down the street from the CIA and stuff, and he actively like says on CNBC and stuff like Bitcoin is not money, the dollar is money, Bitcoin is just a store of value and stuff like that. Like I think it's more he's trying to like subvert Bitcoin, and
I just want to be clear that I haven't made these accusations. That was Ben's words. I also want to be clear that for the last 3 months, like I don't have a personal relationship with Saylor, and like that is fine. So like I haven't talked to Saylor specifically, but like I have made attempts to back channel and privately talk about this stuff, and because I don't think it benefits anyone. Like me going public with it doesn't increase support for open source developers. Like I don't think it does. I think it creates more drama and more bullshit and more controversy. And like it was not my goal. That was never the ideal situation. But I just felt like at this point, like it needed to be public, and that's why I made it public. I did post it to Nostr only. I think it's interesting that people are talking about it that pretend that Nostr doesn't exist. But I'm glad the conversations are happening, and people should just ask him. Just ask like he's going to hide from it instead of making
Have
an
you
excuse
asked them?
instead of making an excuse in my comments for him, or calling me out and say, first of all, this has absolutely nothing to do with 1031, completely fucking unrelated. I will say that the gents at 1031 are incredibly, they're just amazing people that they're fine with me stirring up shit all the fucking and oftentimes they support me. Like when I deleted my Twitter, they completely supported it, which was impressive, even though that was obviously bad for 1031 that I deleted my Twitter. But 1031 is completely unrelated to this. This is more of an OpenSats thing, and this is just frustrating to see. And I would just once again ask you, like VanEck, Bitwise are supporting open source developers. Why aren't more ETFs doing it? It's tax deductible. I don't have to do any. They don't even have to have Bitcoin. They can be fiat maxis and donate fiat, and they get a tax deduction, and they get to help the devs that secure their fucking chain. Why is that not the case? Like, ask yourself that question. And I'm not going to name the specific ETF that I know this happened for, because like I'm not going to air that one. Like, that's trying to be deliberate about it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think the only thing that there was confusion on was like whether or not it was a joke, and whether or not like there was some confusion around like which ETF. Like people were thinking Bitwise. Like, wait, I thought
No,
Bitwise
it's
did
not
and stuff like
Bitwise
that.
or
So
VanEck.
yeah,
Bitwise
I think
and
that's the
VanEck
most thing I saw.
are legit, and they are supporting open source contributors, and they will continue to support open source contributors. Hopefully, that I didn't fuck that up.
Yeah. No, Hong's dope. Like his reasoning for it just like makes the most amount of sense. It's like, look, you're putting billions of dollars into this thing. Like, we need to protect it, and we need to fund the protection of it, basically. And if you're not doing that, you're not being good stewards of the ETF.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's like you have like a gold ETF, but you put it in like a $40 safe. It's like, no, you should have a very expensive safe to store your gold. Like same thing, like this is part of securing that Bitcoin is you could have the best hardware wallets and HSMs in the world, but if there's a consensus bug or something breaks in Bitcoin or people stop working on it, then that Bitcoin might not be as valuable, and this is a way to ensure that.
Exactly. Okay, I'm glad we covered that. I felt like we should talk about it at least. I'm sure I'm going to have to talk about it on RHR as well. But I'm glad people are having the conversation. Have the fucking conversation. Just ask them. And like to all the people that are like, oh, what kind of influence can Saylor have on people? Like, oh, this is Bitcoin. Like he has no influence. It's like, yeah, well, you keep softballing him questions because he has influence and you want to go on his fucking yachts. So don't give me that fucking bullshit. I don't need to be on a Sailor yacht. I'm cool with that. Like he can have his 7 yachts. I don't have to participate in that.
You should join Twitter, get a blue check, and then ask them that question.
Yeah, I mean, Tony, you have a blue check. You can ask him the question if you want. Be the
I don't want to
change.
be invited on the yacht. Sorry.
I want to be invited on the yacht. Mutiny is hoping to get investment.
Yeah.
I
That's
do
why
think
Tony
that-
got the blue check.
I will say, if you want to talk about incentives, like we can pretty much guarantee that 1031 is not going to get a fucking investment from Sailor or any Sailor adjacent people. Like I literally get no benefit out of making this.
it is it
Character over it, you can go fuck yourself. Like I really don't give a shit.
it is cool. I mean, I don't know exactly what it's like to be a high net worth individual, but the idea that here's this thing, like let's say you buy like $10 million of Apple stock, like how are you going to improve that bag? Like you're gonna like talk about it if people ask you on maybe do try to be an influencer, buy every new iPhone that comes out. But like with Bitcoin, like I've been to a lot of developer focused conferences, and you'll be in a room where it feels like 25% of the people who could possibly write meaningful code for Bitcoin Core are here right now. Like it is a relatively small community, and we're building so much cool shit. Like we're making so many important improvements in how Bitcoin is secured, how we spend it, all sorts of all across all the layers. So much good work is being done by a relatively small number of people. And so if you have the money to support a few more of those people, you're actually making a pretty big impact on like the value proposition of Bitcoin, which is awesome. I mean, I also want, for-profit companies that have like just a good old fashioned capitalism reasons.
That's what Mutiny is.
Yeah.
A false focused capitalist company. All right. That's fucking dope. That's really fucking cool. Okay. Yeah. I mean, Sailor's official response so far today was that Bitcoin is top dog. And then he put AI generated dog image wearing a Bitcoin collar, which I think that was a really compelling response. Guys, this has been fucking awesome. I look forward to kicking it in person. Hopefully,
Matt, I think you're the top dog.
I'm not. Fuck that shit, dude. Like people are like, "Oh, yeah, dude, he quit Twitter and he like went to Nostr where there's 200 people because of engagement. Like he's trying to get like, yeah, okay, like are you a
Total
fucking
top dog move.
like you fucking retard?" Okay, guys, final thoughts. We'll start with Ben. Ben, final thoughts.
Fund open source devs. Try out Mutiny Plus. I don't know. Try out Mutiny Plus in our Lightning address stuff. Give us feedback. Otherwise, I don't know. Stay pretty.
Stay pretty. I love it. Thanks, Ben. Paul, final thoughts.
Yeah, pay for Mutiny Plus. Make capitalism work. Only you can prevent commie open source soft forks by paying for Mutiny Plus.
I love it. Thanks, Paul. Tony, final thoughts.
Yeah, no, just appreciation for you, Odell, Ben, and Paul. It's been about a year since we started, and it's been a wild year. And yeah, couldn't do it without the support of like everyone, 1031, Nostr community, open source software like Bitcoin, Primal, LDK, Fedimint. Like basically our entire stack is software that we didn't make. So we just put it together. So like definitely a huge appreciation to everyone that supports that mission and writes the code that that we can use. So yeah, appreciation all around.
Thank you, Tony. Like I said, I look forward to kicking you the guys in person, hopefully sometime soon. I'm sure I'll have you on Dispatch again relatively soon. Yeah, this was a great rip. It would behoove me to shout out our top supporters this week. Dispatch is 100% audience funded. We have no ads or sponsors. So we rely on Bitcoin donations, either through Podcasting 2.0 apps or through the Zap stream. And now I put them all together. So we have at Eric99 with 50,000 sats, at 8Mythrander with 18,000 sats, and at DB Cooper with 10,000 sats. Thank you, freaks who continue to support the show. And thank you, freaks who join the live chat. You guys make this special. I know 1700 UTC might not be the best time for some of you guys, but the fact that you joined the live chat really does make it unique. So thank you. And last but not least, always, share the podcast with friends, family. It's available in every podcast app. It's available on YouTube until we get banned. It's available on Twitter, and just subscribing to it, leaving reviews, stuff like that does help. So thank you guys. Love you all. Thank you.
Thank y'all. It's nice playing for y'all today. Good seeing you again. Yeah, we're gonna do another tune for you called, we're like this, entitled. My daddy was a gambler down in Georgia.
Love you, freaks. That was the Allman Brothers singing Ramblin' Man, 1982 at Florida State University. To all the freaks who want to know what track was played, I'm going to try and let you know. I love you all. As I mentioned earlier, I'm going to have Hazard on to talk Blossom Wednesday, UTC. I'm going to have I'm going to have JB55 Will on to talk Damas and Nostr on the 23rd, also at 1700 UTC. And I might add some shows in between there. Not sure yet. We'll do it as we come. But I appreciate you all. Let's fucking do this thing. It's going to take individuals for this movement to succeed. And it's with pride and honor that I'm a part of it with y'all. But it takes you, it takes me, it takes every one of us to make it a reality. So appreciate you guys. Stay humble, stack sets.